Mr. Ryan, there's a huge fiscal crisis looming for the state, and you're going to have to make a lot of whoever wins this seat will have to make a lot of difficult decisions in the next session. And the choices are pretty limited: cutting the size of government, staff, cutting back programs, or raising taxes. So, in the first part, I'd like you to indicate which of those you prefer, and also if you could address the pension problems in the state. And do you expect that it should be business as usual, or is there some reform that you would suggest or hope for?
Right. I mean, in the past we've tried raising taxes. We did that twice, and what's the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again, expecting a better result, and it didn't end up putting us in a place we wanted to be. So that's why this last budget we kind of looked at it really strictly and made a lot of cuts. And I think as we go forward, I think we're going to have to look at more efficiencies in government, see what we can realize. I think one of the things that we haven't taken full advantage of is the suggestion was made, and I'm not sure it was ever followed up on taking recommendations from the people who work in these particular agencies to see what their recommendations are, because they see things on the day-to-day level that some of the rest of us don't see. So what can they bring to the table to say how we can more effectively deal with some situations? What are some of the things that we can do better so that we can kind of save some money there? The other issue is working on the economy, hoping more people get jobs so we can bring in more revenue, and hope that will provide us with some of the funding we need to kind of fund some of the services we want to provide to the state. So there's a couple of things we're going to do. I don't think we're going to see another tax increase at this point in time. I don't see how we could do that. I think we are going to hope that we can get people back to work, look at efficiencies within government. And as far as the pension, I think we're going to have to look at how we do that differently. The governor has been working on trying to place money into the pension accounts so that they'll be there, but I think we're going to have to look at how we address that. And in the proposals that we kind of talked about last year, the House Democrats talked about last week, so that was one of the issues that are going to be addressed, kind of reviewing the pension program, what can we do differently there to make it work for the state of Connecticut and take care of our workers once they decide to retire.
Just to clarify, Representative Ryan, would you go so far as the pledge you wouldn't support a budget with higher taxes or new taxes or for the next year, for the next term, or is that a step too far? Do you want to not totally close the door on that?
I'm not going to. I never take a pledge. I always, because you look at the circumstances, you see what kind of information is brought to you, and I think I don't want to be that inflexible. I want to be open to all the possibilities that are presented to us, and I think that would be a little premature at this time. It would certainly be one of the last things I would look at, and I think that the House Democrats in general will look at going forward. Yeah.
Ms. Taraya, your response. I don't know if you need a question restated or.
No, I kind of got some of the key points, so to go off taking a pledge, I'll take that from you, and I'll take the pledge mainly because I feel absolutely comfortable that raising taxes is not the answer. Connecticut stands at one of the top tax burden states in our country. Yet, from what I've noticed, originally I'm from California, so coming from that, I kind of relate to a lot of things from there. So I know California right now too, looking at the cost of living, it's always California's around the 6th or 7th position, and Connecticut tends to be the 7th or 8th position, depending on where California lays. But I know for a fact that our economy is not even close to what California's economy, but we're living as if we're right next to them in the rankings. So raising taxes is definitely not what's going to be taken care of. Like we shouldn't rely on taxpayers to continue getting us out of our financial crisis, our financial problems that we've systematically built up to this point. So and it's not raising taxes versus seeing an increase or seeing an increase in your bill every year for property taxes. Of course, it's you pay a $142 bill, and then it's going to come back next year as like $145, and you're like, why did it go up? I mean, cost of living per year goes up. The same, your gas didn't cost the same as it did a year ago. To fix your fence, to get your landscaping done, didn't cost the same thing as a year ago. Things go up. Inflation, unfortunately, and hopefully, if we plan this out right, our wages will continue to go up as well. So yeah, no new taxes. I know.
So how would you, if you don't raise the revenues, where would you look? Are there any programs you feel the state can live without? How would you get spending under control if it's not going to be increased revenue that solves this problem?
Well, I was recently just looking at the stats for this Dunkin' Donuts park of $52 million, and it's still not even completed. Renovating all of Hartford there, of our downtown area, for a $400 million price ticket. That's still increasing because the project's still not done. Those are just a few examples of cutting spending. So to go through line by line, make everything more and more effective, that's just what we have to do as legislators, both 151 in the House and 36 in the Senate. So it's going to take time. There's no overnight fix. It took years to get here, so it's going to take at least 1 or 2 terms to even get on the right footing. For revenue, it's not necessarily getting more taxes, but keeping our businesses and making sure we have taxpayers in our state. I take a look at the pensions. I like to see there's a study of how many people who are receiving pensions from our state who actually still live in our state. Did they end up moving south? Are they taking their money from Connecticut? And it's not fair to cut them off. It's not fair to take what we've guaranteed them and promised them to say, like, oh, you spent your whole entire career for the service of our state. We're not going to give you a pension. That's by far not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is making sure there's for the future to grandfather people who are already in, continue with that promise. Because long ago, there's no longer, like, you work for 20 years and you're guaranteed a paycheck. The only time I've seen that happen that is still in effect with our government is on the federal side. And even then, military is kind of drawing back and doing different types of pension reform, so that way it does cost. Personnel is such a huge price ticket, item ticket or line item ticket that's in our budget.
David, do you want any follow-up to that? It was your question to our candidates from what
yes,
you heard.
Mr. Ryan, you indicated, of course, you know the budget very well after so many terms, that you would like to see more cuts in programs. This seems like from the last session that this fiscal storm is going to hit very quickly when the session reopens, and as you say, soliciting advice from employees and the state government workers about how to make these cuts. It seems like a good idea, but what are some of the things that they're percolating in your head about where to cut and what goes? Social service programs, the size of the government, employees?
I think we want to look again at probably middle management to see if I think we don't want to eliminate any direct service folks, but I think we want to reevaluate how many people we need to have between the commissioners and the people that are actually doing the work. And I think that might be an area we can look at, is to see how efficiency, how we can probably eliminate some of the middle managers, so we can kind of realize some savings there. And I guess I also feel I have to clarify one issue, and that's that the Dunkin' Donuts park, there's no state money involved in that. It's not part of our budget. That's tied entirely within the city of Hartford. I think so that's not part of our budget, just to make sure people are aware of that we're not spending money on that.
How about the the other $350 million then?
I'm not sure what you're speaking to. I know there was a proposal by Center Plan to do some more development. I'm not sure if they're probably still in the picture as part of that process, since they were kicked off the stadium. But I think that was, again, still a City of Hartford project, not a state project.
Anything else on that, Mr. Taraya, from what you heard before we move to another question?
Well, if the city is not able to fund it, where do you think the money's going to come from? It's going to come from Hartford, the actual state government. So.
All right.